Okay, welcome everyone to the first of hopefully two of the Biological Anthropology Women's Mentoring Network course Shell Share events. So this event, the idea actually came from one of our presenters today, Dr. Katie Allen, who has had extensive experience teaching online and where participating in such events where she got to see how some other colleagues with more experience set up their online courses was helpful in her own development as an online instructor. I'm gonna let her introduce herself in just a little bit later. And so the one thing that I think is important to, I just wanna give everyone the heads up that this event is being recorded. We will make the recording available on bawomen.org in just a short while. So if you're not comfortable being recorded, I'm gonna keep this on speaker view, but we would, and just in general to kind of keep things flowing, when folks have questions, we would kindly ask that you post them in the chat instead of everyone sort of trying to go in person. So secondly, and also just in case there are people who are not comfortable being recorded, we ask that you can message throughout this event. We ask you that you message Brianna, who is the co-chair of BA Women and the co-host of this meeting. Send your questions directly to her and so that she can moderate that. And then once both of our presenters have led us through their courses, we're going to open this up to questions, starting with questions that have come in during the presentations. And then if time allows, we're planning on this lasting an hour, then we'll open it up sort of to the virtual floor. I just realized I haven't introduced myself. I'm Maya Sheshan. I'm an associate professor at Bryn Mawr College. I'm the co-chair of BA Women, and I will hand this over to my co-chair and co-host, Dr. Brianna Povener. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Maya. I'm Brianna Povener. I'm the other co-chair of the Biological Anthropology Women's Mentoring Network for the time being. I'm at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History, but I'm also an associate research professor at George Washington University, where I am normally teaching classes, but thankfully I was able to postpone my fall class. So I will introduce the two speakers and let them take it away. So Katie Allen, who will speak first, is a bioarchaeologist, and she is currently a ProDig Fellow and visiting instructor at SUNY Potsdam and a research associate with the Buffalo Human Evolutionary Morphology Lab. She got her PhD at the University of Buffalo and has accumulated extensive teaching experience there at Eastern Oregon University and at Southern New Hampshire University. She was also, as a graduate student, an academic advisor for first-year online students at Bryant and Stratton College Online, and that's where she started her experience with online education. Shannen Robson is a primatologist working as a collections manager at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Her PhD is from the University of Utah, and she has previously worked as the collections manager of vertebrate zoology at the Utah Museum of Natural History. She has taught various courses online at the University of Utah and Eastern Oregon University. And just as a reminder before I hand it over to Katie, if you would like to ask a question but would not like to identify yourself as asking the question, you can feel free to send it directly to me in a private message. Otherwise, just please post it in the chat and we will get to the questions after both presenters have gone through their presentations. All right, Katie. We probably need to make you a co-host, don't we?
I think I can do it without.
Oh yeah, I think you can. Okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that introduction, Brianna. I want to share, before I go into my courses, I want to share a couple of other facts about my experience, just for some context behind the courses that I have built. One of them is that I've been working with online students or in some capacity at online college for 10 years, but I didn't start creating my own courses until 2 years ago at Eastern Oregon. So I advise students and I taught in universities where the courses were created for me by an instructional design team, which is a very different experience than I'm guessing that most of the people on this call are going through. I started creating course content 2 years ago. And the content that I'm going to show you guys a peek into my courses from when I was creating them at Eastern Oregon, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of what I'm doing for Potsdam this fall. These are different experiences. So in the past, when I taught online students, one thing is the students who were taking my courses, they wanted to be online, and most of them were taking their whole degree online. I think that's a different kind of a student. They've elected for this mode, and they have experience with online education. A lot of our students this fall do not necessarily have experience with online education. The other thing is I've never taught in 15-week semesters online. So a lot of online colleges who've been doing this before the pandemic, they teach in 8 or 10-week sessions. So a couple of them, what they would do is they would take a 15-week semester, they would cut it in half, and they would give a full-time student 2 courses the first half and then 2 courses the second half. They found that students were more successful taking less classes at once and just over a shorter period of time. All right, anyways, I'm gonna jump right into my classes for you guys. So this first one, this is actually the first course I designed online, and this is in Canvas. If you can see down the left-hand screen, these are a lot of options that in most learning management systems that are automatically populated. They're just there as soon as you open the course. What I do is I actually disable most of them. I found that
Katie, your audio cut out again.
and what they need to do next. So when you go into the modules, and this is a copy of the course, this is not a live course because this is obviously was given a while ago, but I make it so that all of the modules are set to, basically they're not drop down, and the first module is a start here module, right? And so this is the first thing that students see. The week 1 modules are not available until week 1. So they go through the start here module, and in future classes, I put the syllabus in there as well. I didn't this first time. And there's just some information for them to help them be successful. I give them suggestions on how to progress through the course with a weekly schedule. I explain to them how the course works. So in my asynchronous classes, everything is released at 12:01 a.m. on Monday morning, and the week ends at Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I know this might be different for everybody, but I explain that right away. And then I explain to them the layout of the modules, which I'll go into in a second. I give them a get to know your instructor page. I think that especially for asynchronous classes where you're not meeting at a certain time, it can feel like there's no instructor at all. This is one of the, when I was advising students, this is one of the reasons we lost them a lot, is they didn't feel like they had a teacher. And so anything you can do to kind of bridge that gap and make them feel like you're a real person can really help. And then I usually include a page for whatever I'm teaching that helps students understand that no matter what they decide to do with their career, this course is going to help them. And I link up any kind of recent articles on the benefits of remote communication skills, the benefits of time management, how considering controversial topics in classes can make you a great leader, how your research skills are desired by employees. And I link up actual articles out there about what employees are looking for and the kind of skills that are valued. Okay, so after my Start Here module, I often include a news, events, and opportunities module. This is just for semesters as I get information about field schools or a local museum exhibit or any kind of a lecture. I just put them right in there for students, hoping that they'll kind of get involved in the anthropology community outside of class. Student resources, and then I go into the week 1 modules. So if you guys saw the AAPA webinar, I mentioned in the minutes that I had to share some tips that I believe in a consistent structure and inconsistent content. So I think it's great to shake up what you do each week, to do different kinds of videos and interactive activities and case studies and all that, and have your content inconsistent. But I believe the structure should be really consistent so that students always know where to go and to find everything. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the structure I use at Eastern Oregon is to read, to learn, and to do. Everything that I set it up using pages, which most learning management systems have a page activity or page feature that you can create. So I create a week 1 page for to read, a page for to learn, and a page to do. And everything that they need to access this content is on the page. I link it up right on the page so that there isn't other ways for them to get access to it, which can be kind of confusing if there's other links where their assignments are, there's other links where their discussions are, things like that. At least that's just my personal preference. I make the structure of my pages similar. So every single week, the page has this banner on it. I choose a color and I keep it throughout. This banner is, what I did is I basically took an HTML code. I do not write code at all, but there's some kind of cheat sheet codes, things that you can just copy and paste. And this banner is one of those. Same with these buttons down here. I simply just copy and pasted an HTML code every single week, and it gave me this, this kind of decorative feature. I summarize the assignments, and then I always link it up. Now, this is the first course I ever taught. So as you can see, I hadn't started my rule that there's no exploring. So my goal is that they don't ever have to leave the read page to access anything that they need to read. And then they don't have to leave the learn page to access any of their learning stuff, etc. So as you can see, I put here, there's a PDF of chapter 1 in the student resources module. Now I always make sure the link to that PDF is right there. The least amount of jumping back and forth between screens, the less likely they are to get confused and miss something that they have to do. Okay. So to learn, for this course, I did a lot of video lectures. That's because I had taught the course on campus before, and so I had a lot of PowerPoints. Some of them were a little long. These days, I try to keep the PowerPoints a little bit shorter or break them up into multiple PowerPoints because it's easier for students to watch them kind of in chunks by topic. And I use a system called OBS. It's not particularly user-friendly, so there are other ones out there. A colleague of mine just told me about EpocCam, EPOCCAM. I have not tried it yet, but it's supposed to be a more friendly way to record yourself. And then I load it into YouTube, and then I embed it into the classroom. So instead of putting a link where the students have to go to YouTube, I embed it, and that is just another way to make sure all the content is on the page. And somebody mentioned this to me the other day, I never thought of it, but it also stops students from, falling down the rabbit hole of looking at all the suggested YouTube videos that they always give you. So I embed any kind of lectures. For this class, I wanted them to have just a preliminary understanding of bones, so I actually used the eSkeletons website. So I won't go to it because my computer seems to be freezing if I do too much, but eSkeletons, if you haven't checked it out yet, it's a pretty good way to learn osteology and learn your bones. And so I assigned them to that, and then I quizzed them in a future week. And then my to-do page is every single thing that they need to do. If there's a discussion forum, if there is an activity, if there is a test, if there is an assignment, everything can be accessed from the to-do page. So again, consistent patterns with my top border that kind of summarizes how many things they have to do. And this semester, I decided to make them email me their introductory stuff. In previous years, when I had worked as an academic advisor, I was shocked how many students got to the middle of their semester and would post somewhere in a discussion or email me and say they had no idea what their instructor's email address was. So I like to make sure that week 1 they know what my email address is and they can for sure reach out to me. And so all of these are linked up. So all of the assignments, everything they need to do, they can access without going back and forth outside of the modules. Okay, so that is my overall structure. And every single week they have a to read page, they have a to learn page, and then they have a to do page. I will use short clips from National Geographic. I'll stream videos from streaming services such as Canopy or Films on Demand. The nice thing about these that you should know is you don't have to put the whole video in. So Canopy and Films on Demand will let you do clips. In this case, I wanted to show, it was a video about Pompeii, but I wanted to look at the parts where they talked about human remains. And so I put a clip in that was only 4 minutes long, okay? And so the only thing about these, if it's embedded in the classroom, is the student have to be logged into their school accounts to see them. And then my to-do pages are always a huge variety of activities as well. A couple quizzes, some assessments that usually relate to the to read pages or the to learn pages. This was a case study that I did. I actually just created this. I've discovered that students love case studies. They like the creativeness that case studies allow. They'll mention them in my reviews each time I do one. This was a case study where I basically, I'll give you guys a look at it. I took some excavation photos from an excavation associated with my dissertation collection. And I basically I gave them some photos and I wrote up a summary on the photos, giving them information about the weather and any kind of taphonomic issues. If there aren't any artifacts visible in the photos, I would say, you know, perhaps some small beads were found near the carpal bones. So they have to think about where the carpal bones are and what some small beads found there could mean. And then I created a form, basically like a data collection form, pretending that they were out in the fields. And you can create a form that you can actually fill in Word or an editable PDF. And they basically just filled in, you know, one of the graves was an adult, one was a sub-adult, so they selected this. And then they just filled in information about the conditions of the grave, possible taphonomic factors, field conditions, because I gave them information about the weather and the location. And then they kind of shaded in which bones they could see. It just gave them an interesting a way to look at a case study. So I try to do different things each week, but those are some of my activities. I think I've got a couple more here in here. Let's see, no, not this one. If you guys haven't discovered H5P yet, this is a website that allows you to create a lot of interactive content. These are flashcards that I created on H5P, and then I embedded them into the classroom. And these are not graded activity. This is simply a learning activity for them. These right here, these flashcards give you the opportunity to give hints. That's really important because in order to get the answer correct, they have to write it in perfectly. So if they were to write in cavity, it would show that it was incorrect just because they didn't write exactly. But it's not a problem usually because these are not graded. They're not connected to the grade book. This is just an extra way for them to learn something visually and to test their knowledge. So the website is H5P, and you can do a lot more than just do flashcards on that. So I highly suggest you guys check that out. Okay, so that is the first course I ever designed online. That was the bioarchaeology class. The next semester I did a bioarchaeology law, ethics, and controversy class, and I ended up using very similar things. We didn't do lectures, video lectures as much, but we did a lot of case studies. If you guys are doing an access class, or an ethics class, the case studies on the girl from Lemuria. It's a mummified body that had some DNA work done on it that was very controversial. Of course, the Kennewick man was also a good case study that I linked up to them. So that was a course that I just did a lot of extra stuff, but it looks like it's denying my access. So
you need to leave student view.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna actually, because I'm running short on time, so I'm gonna jump forward and just show you guys what I'm working on right now. So jumping forward to this fall, I am now at SUNY Potsdam using Moodle for the first time. And this is the first time I'm teaching 15-week courses, and I'm teaching some hybrid courses, which have a whole level of complexity as well. So this is my introduction to anthropology class. This is the student view, I believe. And so when they log in, one of the things I'm doing that I didn't do before is I'm gonna do a lot more videos of me. So this is an introduction video. It's nothing fancy. I simply give an introduction to myself and explain who I am. When I taught the courses at Eastern Oregon, I was in the first trimester of my pregnancy, and so I was very sick and didn't feel well and didn't want to do a lot of video footage of my face. But I think that will go a long way in making them feel like they have an instructor that they know. I am going to start splitting up the lectures so that they're a little bit shorter, like I mentioned to you guys. And another thing that I'm thinking through right now is the midterm stuff. So with a 15-week course, I think what we do during the midterm of the class is extremely important, because I think that's where we're going to lose a lot of students. So a long class, 15 weeks is a long time when you're showing up every day in campus. It's even longer when it's online. Likewise, right around midterm is going to be the election week. And somebody mentioned the other day that we should consider being light on, or consider our content during election week in case it's kind of crazy and students really can't focus. So that's something that I'm doing, I'm trying to think through right now. And in this course, I have a Start Here module, similar to what I do in Canvas. But this is more of an orientation because Potsdam has asked all of us to do orientation. So this gives more information than before. This is a hybrid class, so it's explaining what the hybrid nature of it is. This is I give, again, the weekly schedule. And then I give a little bit more information because I think helping students figure out how to plan and how to organize their time is going to be extremely important this year. If they don't keep calendars and they don't keep track of stuff, it's going to be really hard with a mix of 4 or 5 online classes and hybrids. And then lots of information about me again. I like to make sure that they know who I am and then know that they have an instructor they can reach out to. And then another thing, I'm going to show you guys my my week 1. I think that for this term, because of how crazy everything's going to be, some of my students are going to be waiting on their COVID tests results and not be able to go anywhere. Some of my students aren't going to be sure what they're supposed to do. I think week 1 is going to be kind of insane for them. So I am trying to be really light on week 1 and really clear. So while some of my students will be, we will be meeting in person a couple of times, I'm not doing any kind of synchronous meeting week 1, just because I think it's going to be hard for them to keep track. So here we do discover, participate, and complete. This was at the request of Potsdam, a little bit different than to do, to learn and to, no, to read, to learn, and to do. But again, in Moodle, I use pages too. So I create a page, and on that page is absolutely everything that they need to do for each of these kinds of tasks. I want them to be able to not move back and forth. So I have a couple of short videos for them, just some introductory stuff. They're going to select, I have a poll where they select the kind of synchronous meeting they want. They have the choice to meet in person, or they have the choice to meet through Zoom to fulfill their synchronous meeting for the week. And then I'm using something called Flipgrid, which if you guys haven't used it before, check it out. It allows them to do really short 30-minute videos to introduce themselves. And once they start recording, it'll show up in class as a grid with a picture of everybody's face, and you can click through and the students can kind of give an introduction of themselves live. And then I'm keeping their complete activities extremely simple, and they just have a short answer assignment where they basically prove that they've looked through all of the content. So that is what I'm working through right now. Let me see if I can get back to me things. It might kick me out. The computer is not sharing very well. But that is basically, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Just so you guys know, even though I have had a lot of experience working with online students and some experience, a couple years now of building online classes, I too find this semester incredibly overwhelming. I'm very anxious. I find myself second guessing every decision I make and every method that I'm going to try. So just know that you guys are not alone in that. It's just an incredibly different kind of term. And if anybody wants to email me, reach out, talk about everything that's going on, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about this stuff. And I will pass it on to Shannon now.
All right,
Okay.
I think Katie probably just left.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone submitting the questions. We'll compile them, especially, and you can keep an eye out on the chat. I will let Katie back in when she rejoins, and we can pass the baton over to Shannon, and then we can go to questions at the end. Hopefully this is all getting recorded. We'll upload it, we'll provide some closed captions. That way, in case anyone needs to go before they may, we get to the question, the answer will be recorded. Keep in mind that you will not be able to save the chat. So if there's particular software or something that comes up in the chat, you may want to basically just jot it down for yourself. We can also think about ways of compiling that and maybe posting it somewhere later, but for now I suggest you may just grab pen and paper or write it down on your computer. Okay, Shannon.
Hi, everybody. I just learned a lot. I hope there's a lot of links to what Katie shared because there's a lot of really great tools out there. I think that's the hardest part is, as an instructor, I have access to my classes, but my students go to 5 different instructors and I don't see what everybody else is doing. So I think this is a great event and I'm really happy to participate because I'm gaining a lot of information as well. I met Katie at EOU. I've been teaching online since 1997, back when I had to learn HTML and code and Dreamweaver and all that terrible stuff. But now these learning tools are so much more dynamic and easy to use. One of the things that I found that really works for my classes in the last few years has been to make a dynamic landing page. So this is, as you can see, this is my archaeology class. This is primates, intro to physical. They all have the same basic structure. So you can design this in an Excel spreadsheet and then import it into whatever learning tool you're using. And similar to what Katie just shared, each one of these links to the week, but the landing page part, having a landing page with all the information that I wanted the students to have access to is something that I've used and has been pretty successful. Also because I can organize the information. If my class has sections before an exam, this information is already on the front page, plus access to the syllabus, and then the discussion boards, assignments, and announcements. This format in Canvas is there's an edit feature for the most recent, and then you can just insert a table, and within each table you can import a picture from the textbook or whatever pictures you want, and then add a second cell below with the hyperlinks to the different sections in the modules. Like Katie, I use the module feature. It's really, really great. I appreciate the order of it, and I also go by week. Also, like Katie, in the course intro and in the syllabus, mine is a go at your own pace during a week. The week is, for me, exactly the same. It's midnight on Sunday to 11:59 on Sunday. Actually, that's not true. Let me take that back. I actually release the information on Fridays, and then their stuff is due 10 days later on Sunday night. So the week is actually Monday through Sunday, but I release the information on the Friday before that. So students have 2 weekends to work on materials or assignments that are due for the week. So usually for my intro classes, the only thing that I ask them to do in the first week, besides get familiar with the website, is to do what Katie also suggested, where she has an introduce yourself survey. For hers, it's a set of questions that they email back. I designed mine in the survey tool, which is part of the quiz, so you can set it up like a quiz. And then it's that way I'm not getting a whole bunch of emails from a lot of different students that I have to then archive in folders. It's all within there. This is the survey question format that I upload. What is their major or minor? That's so I know if this is a class that they're taking for their for what kind of a requirement, if they're a full or part-time student. EOU is a commuter school, so a lot of students aren't full-time. Do you have a job outside of school? How many hours do you work? Why did you enroll in the class? And then tell me more about yourself in your words. And then the last one, which I think is really important right now, is what concerns or commitments do you have right now with what's going on? I've had students regularly let me know that this is the only class where someone reaches out to ask more about them. And then also before things get bad, or if they have some sort of hiccup in the class, they're able to give me a heads up in these surveys about what to anticipate. Like, you know, I'm getting married in the fall, or I'm 8 months pregnant, or I have this thing, or, you know, my grandmother is sick, and that kind of stuff. It really helps being able to keep an eye on the students and then be able to track what's happening in their lives, as well as being able to invite them that you're interested in them and you want to get connected to them in a way that you can't in person. Whoops. So that's the first the first week, and I'll show you, if you're interested, about how I make these front lines. So this is my primates class that I'm teaching this fall. Each weekly module is linked on the front page to each of the information that they need to do that week. The way that I designed this was just in the edit tool, you can create a table. So it's just a table that I've just put in text and then added. If you highlight it, then you can add a link to, you can link to one of the things that already exists within the website. So the landing page having links to all the other spaces, I think, is really helpful for students, and it's worked well for me. It's also a great design tool for all the other classes. So I use it as a template for all of my courses. It provides the dates of the weeks, and then also information to the different sections that they need to go to. So the course content depends on the class. My advanced classes sometimes have weekly discussion assignments, plus they have a different assignment. It's very similar to Katie's. I have this is what we're doing. I often include additional online resources, and then the assignment information is clear. That's so what's due that week, and then the assignment due dates. I use discussions for information about news stuff. So these are I always have a museum or bioanthropology or primates or something in the news where the students can put something that they can add it to have a conversation about what's going on, or if there's something of interest. I used to have also a pinned discussion for questions about content, but that didn't, because I figured if one person has a question, they would all be interested in the question that I can answer, but that has never worked very well. So I took that one off. But they do have things that they like to share with each other, and that's in this section. In this class, we did a weekly discussion of the material. That doesn't work so well for my intro classes where students don't have a lot of background and maybe are introducing themselves. So they have more structured discussion boards. In week 2, there'll be a forum. Oh, this is my primates class. Sorry. For instance, in the archaeology class, they'll have 2 of their assignments will be participating in a discussion forum rather than doing a paper or a review or a case study or something like that. I think the front page also helps me remind them when their exams are due and what information is covered in each section, and then also gets them back to the major spots, especially announcements. I don't deviate usually from content, but I do let them know you know, information that I know that, you know, somehow the bookstore didn't order all the copies and everybody's waiting for content. So this is a place where I could give them PDF versions of the reading assignments or sections of their textbook, or when stuff are due, or reminders and that kind of stuff. In Canvas, in the announcements, you can also add links that'll say, hey, remember, you need to have this done by this date, and then link it directly back to whatever you're referring to. So the other thing that I think was also really helpful for me as a designer was, I've done these classes regularly on a schedule for Eastern Oregon and for the University of Utah, and I'll import the content from an earlier term. In Canvas, there's a review in settings that will do a hyperlink audit for you, and it'll do a report that tells you all the hyperlinks in your class that isn't working, and that's been really helpful for me, because it's so hard to go through a whole class and change all the, you know, online content, or check every single link from term to term. So even if you're designing a new class, I'd highly recommend, if your design tool, your management tool allows it, to find that, because having the system check your hyperlinks are so much helpful. Then getting an email midweek from a student saying they can't access a video because the link's not working. Let's see. I'd rather know if there was information that would be useful to you. So that's basically a tour of my classes and the basic structure of what I've done. Another thing that I appreciate getting feedback from the students. Sometimes it feels like they don't have the opportunity to input very much. So the first thing that I found really helpful was the introductory survey. I found that to be a very crucial part of having one-on-one contact with students. But also at the end of one question in every exam has always included one, the question, versions of the similar question. Name one thing that can be improved in this class. Provide something else, what tool or what aspect of another instructor's class has been really helpful that you think I should integrate into this class? What, you know, improvements would you suggest? And it's been very good because, like I said, the students go to multiple instructor courses, but I don't have access to anything other than my own. And so soliciting the students and what they think works well is a great way to improve the course as well. So yeah, we have about 15 minutes. Should we do questions, Maya?
Thank you so much, Shannon. Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's take it away. I know there's been a number of questions in the chat. I think a lot of the questions were sent to everyone. So both also Katie and Shannon can see it. But Brianna, do you want to start with any questions that may have?
Yeah, I'm looking. There's a lot of really nice chatting going on in the chat.
Yes.
One question that just popped up from Catherine, could you show the Excel sheet you used to set up the front page?
Yeah, I think so. So one of the things that I would suggest is, for instance, if you go and design it, so it would be something like, my pictures are in each cell, or you could create spaces between the pictures. So create your, you know, I like to do nothing more than 3 columns wide because I think that fits on the screen. To be fair, it's really hard to design a landing page when you don't know if students are going to be looking at it on a tiny screen or on a big monitor. So sometimes the dynamic dashboard gets squished in weird ways. So I try not to do more than 3 wide, and then maybe some spaces in between like this. And then all you have to do is click in a cell and import insert a photo, whatever photo you want, and then underneath of it type week 1. And then once you've designed it, take this you know, you can take the whole thing and go into your course and edit and just add the table and just replace all the cells with the things you designed in Excel.
Okay, well, Shannon is working on that. Let me really quickly, I think there was a question that I also had, which was for Katie. What do you recommend as the length for like the narrated PowerPoints?
So that is a really good question. I'm working on that as well. There's, you know, this idea out there that these videos should only be like 10 minutes long. I don't know how practical that is to actually get all the content we want to students, and that's a lot of extra work to create like a whole bunch of 10-minute videos, load them all up into YouTube, and then embed them all in. I think I am going to try like 20 to 30-minute videos, something that they could sit down with a cup of coffee, watch in 20 minutes, take some notes, and then take a break and not have to go back through the video trying to find where they left off to start over again. And then, so if I have a lecture that's naturally, you know, it's a full class period, or there's a little bit more than that, I would probably split it into like a 2, you know, maybe 15, 20, 20, 25, something smaller like that. But that is me experimenting. I don't know if that's necessarily the like, the you know, the wider agreed upon length for videos. I just know I used ones in the past that were like 40, 45, and now I'm looking at that and thinking, it's probably not the best.
I'm just looking through to see if there are any, there were, you know, there was conversation about like whether to have multiple quiz attempts, about whether to have timed quizzes, but I'm not sure if any of those were necessarily direct questions to the speakers, but there was some good conversation back and forth.
I time my tests. One of the things about Canvas that annoys me is that everything is called a quiz, even finals, midterms, and exams. But in an exam, it's one of those things where I do them open book and I do them timed in order to encourage them to not just do the exam without studying first. So I give them a few hours, but I also do a screen lockdown. So you can do a lockdown screen so they're not using the internet, at least on the computer that they're taking the test from. And then I give them, it depends on the exam, but usually about 3 hours, which is more than enough for everybody except those who haven't studied.
In the past, I have done all written exams, to be honest. So they're more written assessments in which they're told, you know, basically show me what you've learned. So I'll give them like in a bioarc, I might say, you know, human remains were discovered in this context. There was 2 individuals, you know, use what, and give them some background and use what you've learned about taphonomy and paleopathology to say, you know, to show how you would analyze this. And it's basically an opportunity for them to be like, look at everything I've learned. They you know, quote the readings that we've been assigned, quote some of my lectures and specific examples I've gave them, more evidence that they show me that they've gone through everything, they've digested everything, the higher it is. That is not always easy on the instructor's part because you have to grade all of those. And if you're doing 4 or 5 classes this term, it's definitely not easy, but that's how I've done it in the past to avoid having to decide between like open book or making sure they don't check the answers or whatever. So.
So discussion boards are something I have had struggled with. And again, I think the question about discussion boards is depends on the class. The introductory ones, I think, need some guided discussion and so pointed questions with clear ideas. It needs to be 700 words. It needs to include a question at the end to engage your fellow students. Of course, then they all do them at the very last minute, not engaging with each other at all. And then you never really get discussion. So one option is you do half the class has to do week 1 discussion and half the class does week 2 discussion, responding to the week 1 class. That's one suggestion. And then you alternate every other week. That's not always at the last minute. Another option for my more advanced classes that are more discussion, that have more background and more information to share is, it's usually discussion following some sort of a textbook, so something controversial about primatology or museums or something like that. And then there's a series of suggested questions or like big, you know, we're signing this because it's all about museum ethics. So let's talk about museum ethics is basically the theme, and then we have a couple of readings and we'll get into that topic. But I think discussions and intro classes are a little bit harder because they don't have a lot of background to share. So it's mostly reflective content from readings. But if you alternate weeks, that could be a good way to like generate response.
I ask them to have, everyone has to post their, I don't know what your deadlines are, Shannon, but I do their initial post,
They're the same as yours.
The same. So I do for the initial post, I ask them to do it by Thursday at midnight. And so that's the only deadline that's not Sunday, so that there's always something for people to reply to halfway through the week. It doesn't mean that they're not all doing their replies on Sunday. But I do say, I make it very clear that if you answer any questions that I post, or if you answer students who've posted on yours, that counts as one of your replies. Like, so having back and forth counts. And then I also encourage them to, if they don't have a lot to say, I say go out and find some interesting article or a news thing or something about it and bring out in an outside source And then they can discuss that. So if they are talking about a topic and they can go and find another news coverage or article about it, that gives them something to talk about if they've kind of run out of things to comment on the initial posts.
So I see a question from Raiko, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, about online lab practicals for teaching Intro to Human Evolution or Variation or archaeology classes. I don't know if either of you or if anybody else has any thoughts about that.
I have not done any. I think I'm going to do some using Sketchfab and 3D models of bones, which can be embedded directly into the learning management system. So you don't even have to go to Sketchfab. And they're really, some of the 3D models are really excellent. So I did do kind of a short course that used Sketchfab for that and for lab practical questions. And I found that it was really helpful. So you have the 3D model and then you have questions that you have to answer on that 3D model. And there's actually thousands and thousands of freely accessible 3D models on Sketchfab. So I think that's what I'm gonna try.
I wanna just interject really briefly. I know that in the Teaching College Anthropology Facebook group, Scott Suarez posted and shared the labs that he had done for, I think it was in an intro bio-anth course. A lot of those were using Sketchfab, but a number of people, I also do recommend that group just in general, because a lot of people share resources and sort of in solidarity. And then you can see what people have been doing. A lot of people have shared their lab materials and are happy for people to use them. So it's definitely a resource that you can check out.
Soleria also has, if you're teaching an intro to biological anthropology class, Soleria has a textbook that's a lab-based textbook that you don't actually need any equipment. I can't remember the name of it. I used it last year. It's only a couple years old. Every single lab activity in there, they have appendices with photos or images or content, so that if there's absolutely no access to lab material, that you can do a lot of the basic biological anthropology lab-like activities. So if anybody is looking for that kind of stuff, email me. I'll find the title of the textbook that she has out. I found that very helpful, and I think if I was teaching an online version of Intro to Biointh, I would assign that again, because they could easily go through those lab activities at home without the lab.
Anna is asking,
yes,
is it,
so.
yes,
Laboratory
laboratory manual and workbook for biological anthropology.
Yes, yep, that's the one.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Anna, I'm sorry.
Does anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up? Thank you both, Katie and Shannon.
Is anybody teaching online for the first time this term?
You can also do reactions and things like that. Mostly show of hands. Yes, people are raising their hands. I'll switch to gallery view.
If anybody needs any help, I know that I'm not sure what the email was, but I'm happy to also provide my contact information. I'm happy to help anybody who, let's see if I can find it.
It doesn't mean
there's no contact information available, but hopefully you have it, and you can reach out if there's anything that we can be of help. I'm sure Katie and I would be happy to provide anything we know, because I think we feel very, our hearts hurt that everybody's thrown into this situation at the last minute.
There's so much great stuff out there, but sometimes that can even be overwhelming. I feel this great sense of I've got to find every fantastic resource that is out there, because there's so much of it. But at times I feel so incredibly overwhelming that it actually gives me decision fatigue. I can't decide what to do or how to learn new things. So I think a good tip is to pick a few things that you really want to master, you really want to incorporate, and go with it and try it out, but don't feel like you have to put together the most extremely technologically advanced thing, because it will probably exhaust you very early on in the term. That's what I usually do every term. I just try to learn a couple new things or try out a couple new things.
Yeah, and it's hard on the students too, because they're trying to track this for 5 classes or whatever. and they're all different, and it can get very overwhelming for everybody.
Yeah, in a way, maybe being a little bit more simpler and straightforward is going to be the thing that helps students be more successful in a term where there is so much, you know, pulling their attention away. So
I did want to just take a minute and thank the presenters for doing it. I also wanted to say that I think both our presenters here and the people we've talked to about potentially, you know, doing another event sort of slightly later this term, semester, quarter, whichever division you're on, are people who have sort of, you know, crafted these skills over the years, oftentimes working in positions either as adjunct or sort of term limited instructors on various capacities that don't involve a lot of sort of support or you know, security. And so we are, we're offering honoraria to our speakers as a sign of appreciation for their willingness to share their time and expertise. If you are in a position where you may be able to donate something, it doesn't have to be much, but something, then we would like to direct you. You can go to bawomn.org. There's a donate or support button that you can click on. It would take you to our Square page where you can make a donation. I think they start at like $5, but you can make a custom amount. So if you found this helpful, this would be going towards supporting our speakers for this event and hopefully the second one as well. And it is, yeah, 1:59. If there are any last minute questions that we can still get in without going over. Brianna, anything that you may have seen coming?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation and good luck, everybody.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was nice meeting you all.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Good luck. Thank you.